Good evening. I'm Terry, and this is my first time live streaming. And I had a few thoughts I wanted to share. That's just things that have recently occurred to me as I've considered my life. I'm 71 years old, and uh, so here we go. I I was I spent I guess about 9 years total, or a little more in the military, and was able to travel to and be stationed in a few countries abroad. And one of the first things that I noticed is uh, in the United States of America, we have a belief that this is the greatest country in the world. Um, we are brought up to believe that. We have good reason to believe that maybe it's the current greatest country in the world. But did you know that everywhere that I've traveled, uh, and some in Europe and sometimes in Asia, I've found that when I think of two countries I spent a major amount of time in, that each of them thought that they were the greatest, that they had contributed, their citizens thought that they had contributed most to history and the advancement of people, uh, the advancement of knowledge, technology, correct ways of living. Each country that I visited for a period of time, a lengthy period of time, seemed to have this same belief that we in the United States of America have, and that is that they were the greatest country in the world. And I have recently started to reconsider this idea about the fact that we sometimes back up our beliefs as if we're in an echo chamber. That is, we and I've heard this phrase recently. I love it because you're in a chamber that what you believe and say is reflected back to you in other words to make you to just reinforce your beliefs that you've already had. You go forward without challenging yourself. Um, I don't know what it's like to spend time in another country really as a citizen. I haven't traveled. I have traveled some uh, as a citizen that is not in the military, but not as widely abroad. But I suspect that most countries believe that they are uh, uh, from their own echo chamber the greatest country, or part of the set of greatest countries, or live in an area that the greatest empire of the world existed, and so therefore they've contributed the most to civilization, to the advancement of humankind, and to what is right and wrong and the correct ways of having government. Um, so I, I like most of you probably, I like to believe that what I think and believe is correct, and like to find reason to be able to support that belief, that what I think and believe and my way of life is pursuing a correct and right way of life. But sometimes we really do need to be challenged. We need to come out of the echo chamber. We need to uh, look at another point of view, even if it sort of irks us, if it sort of bothers us, because then we begin to open up and relate to others. We have people that we each have people that we believe probably, I'm thinking it's a common human trait, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we believe are adversarial to us. They don't agree with us. They want to debate with, they want to argue against us, whatever we believe. They want to say that we're not correct about our country. They want to say that we're not correct about our belief system, about our religious belief system, about And I'll even call atheism a religion because it is a belief system. Agnosticism is a belief system. So if somebody wants to argue against your or my belief system, doesn't that make you uncomfortable? Well, some of you enjoy debating. I know that, and sometimes I've enjoyed debating, especially if I feel like I know what I'm talking about, because I've spent time preparing to answer people that do oppose me at times. And so, but do we? Are we really happy that somebody has an extreme disagreement with us on our way of life, on our philosophy of life, or call it religion, if you will, or who we choose to follow, or who we choose to hold up as our teacher or leader, and that includes teachers of the past or of the present, teachers that are dead, that we tend to follow their philosophy, or teachers that are living. That includes both people that believe in a supreme being, or people that believe in multiple supreme beings, or people that deny the existence of a supreme creator. So we each have a belief system that it becomes uncomfortable if we're constantly bombarded with people around us that disagree with us. And that may not be healthy, all to be constantly bombarded with people that disagree with us, but to have some people that we can friendly have set down discussions and have a friendly disagreement with, and each take time to sort of pass the talking stick around so that when they're talking, we're not interrupting, and vice versa. And we try to make the time equal, and we are really friends and not trying to just try to show off and outdo each other in our argumentation. Then sometimes that's healthy. But I think too much of that can create animosity and make a greater divide between people. Sometimes we come together as really listening to each other. We create a commonality, at least a feeling that we're safe in that environment, and we can share then. But if we come together in an adversarial spirit to have a discussion, to try to beat up on the other person's beliefs instead of try to share and give them the same chance, then I think it's non productive. And so sometimes it is good to have be surrounded with some people that have your beliefs and that support you, because I think that makes you think. Well, it makes me think. Well, I have a degree of sanity. I'm not without brains because I believe this particular uh, thing, or I have this particular faith, or I have this particular life philosophy, or and so forth. So I think it's often good to step out of the echo chamber in a more friendly atmosphere, or on the internet, since the advancement in that. And I was around before the internet came to be, and even where computers weren't being used in school. The furthest we got when I was in school, and I graduated in 1973 from high school, was some of them, a few people, just a couple that I can remember, had handheld calculators that could do calculus computations, and that was so rare. And I think the two that I remember were twins, and their father had worked at Texas Instruments, and so they moved to our area from, and so they brought calculators in with them into the classroom. I was astounded by that, and then a couple years later, I graduated in 1973, and so uh, it was only as a later an adult later on that the internet came about, and this fascinating thing about being able to share online, and being able to research online, and being able to get outside your echo chamber safely online, so you can turn it off if you get upset for a while and then go back to it, or or get outside your echo chamber safely, or stay in your echo chamber to reinforce. Well, you think, well, maybe I was a little off, and I want to see what some people that agree with me say to support the ideas that I think maybe I couldn't support very well, but I believed. You can do that too. You can research what supports your beliefs and what is antagonistic to your belief system. I think that's fascinating. It's fascinating with with the use of AI now, and it's may talk more about that later. But AI is a fascinating thing, and I don't think it evil, but I think it depending on how if you have the resources to set it up without bothering the environment too much around it, then I think it's simply fascinating. But I think there are some cases, and I recently spoke out against something and signed a petition where it can be set up in the wrong environment with lack of preparedness, just out of greed, and really disturb the local community and the environment. Now, I'm not. I'll share a little bit about my belief. We say, well, we are. Some people say we're destroying nature. Well, we're part of nature. I'm a living being too. I'm part of nature. So, but if they say we're making the planet uninhabitable, I tend to agree with that. I don't like the idea if this is true, and I've read a lot of things that seem to support this, and I don't find many that disagree with it. That our Earth has these giant islands of plastic floating in the oceans, and they haven't figured out how to really safely get rid of that yet. People are studying things about like plastic eating bacteria and so forth, and um, but it's disturbing to me. But however, I don't think it's wrong for humans to advance. We are natural. We're living beings too. We're part of this system too. But let's take care of our surroundings so that we can all kind of thrive in this system and not destroy ourselves with things that contribute to ill health, either mentally or physically. Talk adding toxins to our system, and see if we can't find a lot better ways of doing that. Uh, you know, everybody adds some toxins to the system. That's just the waste that living beings put off is toxic. But there is a balance about those things being balanced in the system instead of too much damage in one area. So there must be a restoration too. I I've recently also considered that there's something else besides the fact that sometimes I enjoy being in an echo chamber. I have found, and this is one of my outlets now, that I enjoy talking. I enjoy sharing what I've learned about life. I feel like I know as much as most people my age, maybe not on one subject, but on another subject I may know more. We we each it's like countries. Each country has their strengths and their weaknesses and their ways of doing things. If you step back and take the big picture and look at the whole forest, as individuals or as families or communities, we do the same thing. And sometimes we need to recognize that person, that even if we disagree with them on some issues that really bother us, has something to contribute, and we might want to consider that they have something that will actually contribute to our lives being better. And I ask you to consider that as you share with others, as I'm considering as I share with you, that we each consider making a contribution and not being so adversarial, the first thing to have a knee jerk reaction and to cause hurt when somebody disagrees with us. Now, back to the echo chamber and back to loving to hear myself talk. Recently, I was speaking to my wife, and I went on and on about something I knew something about, and I like to with somebody as close to me as my wife, which she's the closest. Okay, then I tend to be get carried away. I want her to know everything I know, see everything I think I see clearly, and tell you the truth. She sometimes gets tired of that. She doesn't ask for that. She hasn't asked for that. She's getting a lot of unsolicited advice from me, and just I think it was just yesterday that in the car on the way home I went on and on about something and was making a dissertation out of like this is just a parallel, a figure of speech, but I was making a dissertation of something that doesn't amount to much like much more than whether I was thirsty at the time. I mean, it's just she doesn't want to hear all my ins and outs that I have consideration on. on every point of life. And I submit that that's true of you too. There are many things that you think are important, but giving unsolicited lectures to even those we love can become like they want to run away from us. They want to get out of there. I mean, uh, I was talking to a man at work today, and I still have employment, 40 hours a week, or maybe a little more. Sometimes I work over, but I still have employment. And I was talking to another man at work about dieting, and he was asking me what I was doing to lose weight, and I was talking to him about a particular diet. I won't talk to you about that now because I haven't been real successful at sticking to it. But he started to immediately have a reaction, which was that he didn't believe that anything that was a diet that you could stick, but because maybe he called it a diet, I didn't. I said I like to eat in this manner. I found that it helps me, and I feel great. But it's hard for me to do that because those that live around me do not agree with me. Okay, so he was starting to. He put the word diet in there, and a lot of people said in the word diet is the word die, and so we don't go on a diet. But I said, no, no, it's not like that. He said, so what happens when you leave your particular diet? Then you gain all that weight back. And I said, well, what if you don't leave it? What if it's a way of life, your way of eating? And then he started to bring up something else, like he shook his head and didn't believe it. And he's a real easy guy to talk to. We talked for a few minutes, just as I met him at the mailroom at work, and we talked for a few minutes just as we met there. We were looking at something, a new arrangement in the mailroom, and I could see already that I wasn't going to be able to dump all this YouTube information, research on Google AI, and all this stuff I'd done to try to prove that the method of dieting, or he called it a diet, but the method of eating that I thought was best would be acceptable to him, because he'd always in his mind heard the word diet, and he had his doubts. He was shaking his head and so forth. So you can't force your system on somebody. Maybe it's good to, if you just give them something to read or something to view, or to consider an alternative, or pass that talking stick around, or make sure that you're in a fairly friendly moods with each other before you begin to try to convince somebody about your position. And if you're going to try to convince them about your position, be sure and do as much listening as you do talking. And that's very difficult. It's difficult for me, and I know it's difficult for you. It'll help your relationships if you don't go on and on with unsolicited advice. It will actually help me get along better with my wife of approximately, I think it's, what is it, 48 years now, I think. Let me think. Okay, so mm, yeah, it's 48 years. 48 years next month. It'll help me get along better with her if I learn when she doesn't want to know all that I feel like I need to share with her. Even my wife in my own household, my beloved, too much is too much. She has to come to her own decisions. I have to come to my own decisions. And so don't walk over those around you in your attempt to show them all this wisdom that you have. And I think I'll end with that tonight. And I thank you. Now, if I can figure out how to stop. Okay, I got it.